she was like texting me and she's like, Ari, you got to meet with my boss. And I'm like, who's your boss? And she's like, you gotta meet with him. He's building a company called Wework. Each one of those ventures that I embarked on, like they taught me such great lessons. One was like founders. The other one was humility.
I'm 22. I could just pick up and move to Dubai right now.
It's like a bigger version of Vegas in my mind. And it was 2 years of not making any money. You know, I was newly married. The business today is global. The reach is everywhere.
Even for 22-year-olds?
Let's grab a coffee. Let me take care of you as a person first, and don't worry, we'll get to the business. I've done pretty much all of it.
Do you ever like pinch yourself and be like, what the hell?
You know,
what is going on?
It changes you. I have a different perspective on money than maybe most people.
Ari Matityahu, welcome. I've been looking forward to this for so long because there are a lot of people we meet where it's kind of like, because we're trying to build our business. And there are other people sort of in the same vertical or that seem to be a couple steps ahead of us. And you have a conversation, whatever. And then there's some people that are in a whole nother world. They're so far ahead.
Oh, wow.
That you feel like when you talk to them, something is going to click.
Well, I want to meet those people. So
and you are that person for us.
Well, that's so kind. Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's I've actually watched many of your episodes.
No way.
I've followed your journey. So really, kol hakavod. You know, really amazing job what you've accomplished so far. So I'm super honored and super excited to be here with you guys.
So today, the main goal is sort of in that same vein. We don't know exactly what it'll be. It'll probably be something with sales, networking, Saudi Arabia, building a business in general. But we're just going to start with, there's an event tonight.
Yes.
And Asha can take it from here. I'll just leave it at that.
I'm going to this event tonight. It's like the big Nova gala dinner situation. And there's going to be Scooter Brown there, Montana Tucker.
Sure.
Big sponsors. And it's an expensive place to be. And I want to meet these people. And I'm not really too sure how to approach them. Like, how do I get them on a call? What do I do to be able to get value from that dinner?
Well, you know, whenever you're going to any type of networking event or a gala dinner, right? You gotta have the right mindset of going in, right? So before I go to any of these galas or before I go into any of these networking events, I always write down 2 or even 3 things I want to accomplish when I go in there. And it could just be meeting 2 people. It could be meeting the host. It could be having a meaningful, deep conversation with 1 or 2 people. It could be a whole list of things. But the first thing is, whenever I go in, I want to set very low expectations. Don't set such high expectations.
Interesting.
Set low expectations. It's the psychology of knocking off one small thing from your list, your to-do list. And if you can kind of check off that one task at that event, you're actually more likely to then check off the second one and the third one. You have momentum. You have something you're proud of. You accomplished something. So before you go into any event, and the one that you're going in tonight, write down on a sticky note, on a piece of paper, on your phone, 2 or 3 things you want to accomplish. And if that one thing is, I want some FaceTime with that person, right? Any of these high influential people.
That'd be awesome.
Or you want them on the podcast, right? If you write down what your goal is, and then start to say, okay, well, how can I achieve that? Well, I'm gonna need to walk up to them, right? I'm gonna need to approach them. Start breaking down all the steps that you need to do to get to checking off that box. So when anyone goes into a situation where you know there's value to be there, you know that you can accomplish something there, write it down. It's old school, but write it down. And then start breaking down what you need to do to get to that task.
What often happens in those situations, and the prepping before and actually writing something down, I've never done before. I don't know if Asha's done that.
I've tried it, but usually it's not what I actually end up doing.
But even then, you get into the moment, and now you're talking to that person, and to actually make it happen, it feels like you've been standing in line with that one person, and now you have 15 seconds. And how are you actually convincing them? And now your checklist is just, now I have 3 more hours, and this was a fail. So now
and you
what do
gave
I
up
do?
all the other things that you could have done while waiting on that line.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's an opportunity cost, right, for anything that you're going to do. And if you want to shoot your shot and take it, mean, go for it. Go wait in that line for 3 hours to have your 15 seconds or 10 seconds. But if you have that 10 seconds, make sure that you have your ask, right? You don't have time to build up the ask, build up the pitch, convince. That time is not for you to convince him or her, whoever you're talking to, that what you want to do is the right thing for them to do, and you need them to say, yes, that's amazing, I'll do it. You have 10 seconds. Your ask is going to be something like, hey, thank you so much for hosting us. I really enjoyed my time here. I'd love to find time to talk to you about coming onto our podcast.
Is that not too much of a pitch already?
Look, you got
like a 5-minute phone call, maybe that's what we want.
You got 10 seconds. Go ask for what you want. But leave it in a way that there's a clear next step and a clear next follow-up where you can go into more detail. And ask, is there someone on your team we can talk to?
That might be a good one. That might be a good one. Not asking for his time directly.
Correct. The people that you're describing, right, are incredibly busy and have a lot to do, and they're not making decisions on the spot for whatever you're asking them. What you want to do is make the ask and then pivot to having them give you a chief of staff or an assistant or a number 2 or a number 3 that can help facilitate your request and dive deeper into it.
So with a lot of these, we end up with this sort of, we can either go after all the quick wins or something, maybe setting up a new podcast that we could produce for someone in 6 months. And right now, when someone says we'll produce something in a couple months, I'm like, that might never happen. And it doesn't give us any traction now.
It's a big turnoff.
Right.
So in terms of
that's a turnoff for you guys, right?
We want to do things today.
It's a long
But
sales
is that an
cycle.
issue? Should we be planning farther ahead and say the great things just take a long time?
Great things do take a long time. You know, I have an experience where, and it's actually so funny you brought that up. You're saying it takes 6 months for you is a long time.
Yeah.
Well,
Even 2 months.
Try 2 years. Right. I had someone just call me yesterday. Sent me a WhatsApp from the Middle East, and it's
Best use of WhatsApp.
Best use of WhatsApp. I actually do more sales and more communications via WhatsApp than I do phone calls or regular text or even email.
How many phones do you have?
I actually have one, just one.
Impressive.
One phone, one number. Everyone can reach me. You know, I don't have 2 separate numbers.
Really? So you got the text?
So, you know, I get the text from a guy I've been talking with for over 2 years, trying to close a deal. And for the last 6-7 months, totally radio silent. And I've been working with this guy for such a long time. And just yesterday morning, he sends me a WhatsApp saying, hey, I know it's been a long time, but I was just talking to my partner and we brought you up. And we want to we have an opportunity we want to talk to you about. We want to re-engage with you. What we talked about so many years ago. And yes, that's the price of doing business in the region that I am, but it's a good lesson for you, right? Things are going to take time. Right? Don't discount your opportunities that will make you work for them. But you have to have a balance. Wins that you can do now, quick wins, and goals that you can work towards in 4, 5, 6 months from now, and then goals you can work towards in 2 years from now. You need to have that strategic balance between short-term, medium, and long-term to grow your business.
And I want to get more into how far in advance we should be planning. We were talking about this before. Should we know where we're going to be in 10 years?
No.
But before we get into that, because that's going to be interesting, I wanted to hear more about just what you're up to right now and in your past. What you've been doing. Yeah,
well, I'm going to answer it really quickly. No, you don't need to know where you are in 10 years from now. That's such a myth. Have such a plan, 5 years, 10 years. The world changes so quickly. I mean, we'll get into that in a sec. But for me, I've had such a roller coaster of a career. I thought I was going to be a teacher.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a teacher. I was teaching at a middle school. I loved working with kids. At the time, I loved I really felt that there were not such great male role models or positive male role models in today's educational system. So I actually thought that I was going to be a middle school teacher teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
When did that plan originate from? Like what age?
My mom is a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. I just have that like teaching gene. I have that ability to stand in front of a class or stand in front of kids, whether I was a counselor at summer camp or even with my peers. I always had that like mentor vibe. And I kind of loved it and I leaned into it, right? So at some point you're gonna have to ask yourself, like, what's your superpower? And my superpower at that time was like teaching and helping people, get from one place to another, learning a skill, learning an ability. So I thought I was gonna be a teacher. And I went through, I went to school to become a teacher. I got an internship, I was teaching at a school, and I thought like that was my life and I loved it. And then one day I get a paycheck and I look at it and I'm like, wait, this is what I make. Like I've been doing this for 3 years and all I've made is like, a few dollars more. It just like didn't click with me. And as much as I loved the job and loved what I did, I was like, well, I actually want more and I can hustle more and I can.
More what?
I wanted more money for sure. And I wanted more growth. And it was funny. I was this 20-something-year-old teacher, and I would always look at the principal and be like, I could do his job. I had no idea what his job was, and I just like I wanted more. I had that ambition and that goal to have more responsibility, more money, more just more in life. So I actually left at the end of that year. I left teaching and I switched to business, and I became an entrepreneur because I was like, oh, that's an easy job to do.
Love that word.
You just became an entrepreneur.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna become an entrepreneur.
Was that in your LinkedIn, like your header?
My bio? I honestly, it was a degree that my university was like, yeah, you can be a business management and entrepreneurship major, and I was like, yes. Well, if I'm not going to be a teacher, I'm gonna do that. Look, I had no idea like what that really meant.
What's funny is that you got that and then you actually became an entrepreneur.
I think I became an entrepreneur because I had it in me and not because of like what I learned in entrepreneurship class.
The college takes that and like that's us. We did that.
I let them take credit for it. I'm happy to give it to them. But if I actually look back at it, like I was an entrepreneur my whole life. Like I was, my first job. My first job was I think at 14 years old. I remember I got working papers. I drove with my mom down to the city hall at 14, and I got this green slip of paper. It was this piece of paper. It was a working permit that permitted me to work, and because I was underage, you needed a little piece. I promise you, it's like this. It was a green piece of cardboard paper.
I had one not on cardboard.
I could have changed, but I had that. And at 14, I was cleaning pools. I had my own pool cleaning company in Westchester.
Oh wow!
And I was
You're
teaching
a pool
kids. Boy. I'm a pool boy. I was a pool boy. I was teaching people how to swim. I was at one point I rolled into lifeguarding. I was cleaning people's pools. I was teaching people how to swim. And from like 14 to like 18, I made about $88,000 just doing that. And I was like, well, that's amazing. And I put it into savings. I didn't touch it. And then, I moved into like another business, and I realized that I was an entrepreneur, not knowing I was an entrepreneur.
What did you love about it? If you were putting it into savings, because I hear a lot of people they'll start up these businesses when they're 14 or in high school, but then they go and spend it. So you were if it wasn't for the money, what were you doing it for?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with money, right? So, when you make your own money and you don't grow up with that, with money or with wealth, and it changes you. I have a different perspective on money than maybe most people. So when you make $1 that you really earned, and you did it by yourself, and you didn't ask your parents and for me, that was gold. Sure, I could have bought at the time like a Nintendo or whatever.
A car.
With $88,000, I could have bought a nice car. But no, I actually just put it into like a savings account in the bank. And it's funny that savings actually helped me when I totally failed as an entrepreneur and I totally crashed and I had no money left. It was actually that savings that actually helped me through some of the hardest times. I was newly married, and I had an idea and a partnership. It was a tech company focusing on voting machine technology, and put my own money into it. Put money from savings. I really actually jumped into an idea. Being an entrepreneur, jumped right into it.
This was your first venture?
This was.
The word sounds so fancy to use.
Yeah. It's I could actually say it was my first venture, and I learned probably the biggest life lesson in that venture. And I partnered with a guy much older than me, who I thought was going to be a mentor, who I thought was going to be the person that was going to help me and guide me through being an entrepreneur. And totally went bust. I mean, the guy was just not a good guy. It wasn't a good partnership. The product and service I thought was really great. We differed on basically everything. It was just it was your toxic founder's situation.
He was a co-founder with you?
Yeah, he was. We were partners, and it was just a totally bad time, bad situation. And it was 2 years of not making any money. Mm-hmm. I was newly married. My father-in-law was like, "What are you doing? How are you supporting my daughter, your wife?" And I was like, "Don't worry, I'll figure it out. I'm gonna do it." And I had such a supportive wife. I have still a supportive wife. She is incredibly supportive, and I couldn't do what I wanted to do without her. But I started out, again, as a teacher, moving into being an entrepreneur and failing so miserably and not doing due diligence on my partners, not doing enough research on if we were compatible. And I just trusted someone who was much older than me and was like, "No, don't worry, I'll teach you everything." And I believed it. I was so naive when I was much younger. And since then, I helped start other businesses. I didn't give up. I was like, you know what? I failed at this. I don't have any more money left in my savings. I'm going to go and work for other people. But I always knew that I was only going to do that temporarily. Mm-hmm. So I started, I helped other people build, one was in the class action claims business. Where do these come from?
Class action,
tech. Honestly, it was like right place, right time. And each one of those ventures that I embarked on, like they taught me such great lessons. One was like founders. The other one was humility. I learned a massive lesson about humility. And when you're in your 20s, for me at least, like I thought like I was invincible, and I really felt like I could do things better than other people.
Even after failing, or that?
Yeah, even after failing,
built that ego.
It was a little bit of like narcissism. Like I really thought like I can still do this. I can still do whatever venture I go into. I can still do it. I can do it better. And I learned another venture when I was with the class action claims business, and it was actually a friend of mine. His father started the business, and I went to go work with him, and I learned the biggest lesson in being humble. And I remember there was a task to do, and I was really good at executing tasks and opening things for them and I was their like special projects person. And I remember we were all virtual. And I remember I was in Seattle, one was in New York, and the other one was, I think, in Denver, and everyone was remotely, and we're getting on a call. And I remember that phone call changing my life, where I came in thinking I knew everything, thinking I knew I was on top of the world and untouchable. And after that call, whatever we were discussing, I think I felt frustrated about something. And I didn't read the room. And I sent an email to the partners. And I thought that email was totally fine. Like I was like, I'm venting my frustration. But looking back at it, that email was totally uncalled for.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned the biggest lesson on being humble and taking a beat before doing something, taking a breath before you do something. And that's either walking up to someone at an event or executing on a plan or signing a lease for a new building or whatever you're doing. You have a business idea. Before you take that jump in whatever you're doing, take a breath. And I learned that valuable lesson on that day.
What beliefs do you think were in there that you had? What was the arrogance, if that's the opposite of humility?
I was totally arrogant. I think I'll now very comfortable to admit it. I think I was totally arrogant at that point. What was there? Like,
because for us, I feel like if you're trying to build something great, you have to believe to some degree that you can do it and be confident in your decisions.
Correct.
So
correct.
Is that what's wrong? That you just shouldn't be confident in it? Or what was the belief there?
I thought at the time I was being super assertive, right? And tenacious. And I was being like I really didn't think what I was doing was wrong. Looking back at it, I think it's great to be confident in what you're doing. And you should be confident. But there's always a balance between confidence and then crossing that line into arrogance or audacity, right? When you're working with other people who are a little bit more seasoned. I wouldn't say older because I believe age is just a number. I don't believe just because you're older by numbers means that you're smarter, better, and I should listen to you. I made that mistake once. I'll never make that again. I don't believe if someone, because they're 50, 60, or 70 years old, I have to listen to them because their age gives them that right. I don't believe in that. But what I didn't focus on was the fact that I needed, as confident as I could, as I was, I overstepped. I crossed the line of being arrogant, of being abrasive.
Was it disrespectful? Was it not appreciating their experience?
If I remember correctly, I think I said things along the lines of if you want me to do the job, you need to give me the autonomy, or you need to give me the decision making power, right? There's something along those lines. I think the way I communicated it was really wrong at that time.
I still think that way. There's so many times where we have clients and they're saying, do this for us. And I'm like, you could do 10 times more if you just let me make the decision.
Let you go.
And we kind of pivoted because of that. We were working with, we're doing social media for clients. And then now we do podcasting. We do podcast production where it's a little bit more clear on the deliverable. We have more control, more autonomy to say, sit here, talk like this. And we don't get bossed around as much. Right. So maybe were you not in the right job? You're working for somebody. Maybe it wasn't the right place for you to be.
I was definitely working for someone. Look, I think at the end of the day, everything is a balance. It's great to be assertive. I'm actually very proud of me being aggressive or assertive. I like that. I think it's a great trait to have.
Chutzpah.
I do have a little chutzpah. Like I love that. And I think everyone should have that. I think that there is a time and a place to activate that chutzpah, right? Activate that audacity, activate that aggressiveness. And there are times where I think we can shut the switch off a little bit and hone it in. So I think I didn't know when to turn that on and turn that off, and I didn't read the room. And it's really important that when you're talking with people who are either your partners or your clients, right? People paying you or people working with you. It's the same, you got to read the room.
So it's asking how will they receive however I'm behaving?
Before I write any email now, or before I write any text message.
With chat, do you use chat for communicating with people?
I do use Chat GPT to communicate, but I don't use it the same way that everyone else does. I actually don't like the way chat kind of spits back. And I'm noticing that I can tell when someone uses Chat GPT.
Oh man.
Because a lot of people, it's actually, it's the same formula. Like it's the same type of response. And I can tell when people post on LinkedIn, like, oh, okay, well, your LinkedIn post just came from ChatGPT.
Those are obvious. They're like paragraphs, and they're spoken in a certain
When it's
way.
an AI post about authenticity, I love those.
Be yourself.
So I do use AI. I do use it, but I believe in authentic communication. I think that's what's gotten me pretty far is being authentic, being real, being myself, and that comes off through my texts or emails. But what I was going to say is that before I send anything, I just take a beat, right? I just take a breath and I ask myself, is someone going to read this in a different way? Is that email, although I can write it with a smile and the tone of my voice could be so happy and upbeat, well, will the tone of that person match me? Or will they read it with an angry tone? There's so much more nuance to that. So I would say like that's kind of why I went, that was one of the biggest lessons I learned in that time. And then after that, I got a job at a company called Wework.
Oh, this was, I thought Wework was earlier.
No, this Wework came right after that.
Mid-20s?
It came right after that. And honestly, I got the job because my sister was babysitting for one of the co-founders of Wework, and she was like texting me, and she's like, "Ari, you got to meet with my boss." And I'm like, "Who's your boss?" And she's like, "You got to meet with him. He's building a company called Wework." And I'm like, "What? I don't know what that is. Like, leave me alone." And then my sister called me again. She's like, no, you got to meet this guy. He's like pacing back and forth. He's like talking about he needs someone to help him and this and that. And I'm like, I don't want to work for these guys. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I have an idea. I have another idea. I'm going to build a new business and whatnot. And at the time, I actually I was married. Like, I needed to support my wife. I needed to like pay my bills. And I was like to my sister, okay, I'll meet him, but I'm not promising anything. And I go and I meet one of the co-founders, and he's like, oh, you're Ariel's brother? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I like your sister.
You're like, what the hell, bro?
I'm like, okay. I said, yeah, I love my sister too. And he's like, okay, anyone who's related to her is a good person. I was like, yeah, okay, I am. And we were chatting for a while, and he's like, okay, can you start? He's like, can you start tomorrow? And I was like, well, what am I doing? And he goes to me, he's like, you're gonna help me. You're gonna be my you're my right-hand guy. I was like, okay, well, wow, that's awesome. Like, what are we doing? And I said to him, I was like, I'm happy to start, but I just want you to know that I don't want to work for you. I want to be you. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you a few months, because I was upfront. I'm like, I need the money and I need a job, and he goes, okay, no problem. He's like, well, we'll give you 3 months. And after 3 months, I just never left. I stayed out till the very end, and I started. I'll tell you, at Wework, I started out as doing any job that I was given. It was a special projects role. It was literally anything and everything that needed to be done. Like, we did it.
What's the most random thing you had to do?
One of the most random things was figure out how a surf park would fit into the theme of WeWork, of a co-working space. That was one of the most random things. But it evolved into what I really do now, is that I was tasked with expanding WeWork into the Middle East. A guy like me being told in the middle of the night, you're going to Saudi Arabia. Pack your bag. You're on a one-way ticket to Saudi Arabia, and don't come back until you kind of raise money and get us there and meet with our partners. And
is that exciting at the time? Because to me, that sounds like the dream. We're paying for everything. Just go to this.
They paid for
whole
everything.
World.
Yeah, I honestly in the beginning I was a little nervous, just given coming
when you were
from
married still.
I was married for sure. Still married, thank God. And
You're so suspicious about it.
no, you know, I'm it's like reflecting back on it because I remember being super scared because I didn't know anything about that country or that region. And I also remember being like, well, this is awesome. This is so cool. This is like none of my friends are doing this. They're all like in investment banking and they're just like sitting in their offices, not doing anything real cool in my mind. So I was like, well, on one hand, I'm really scared. Other hand, I'm like, this is super cool. And I remember taking the flight out and I took it by myself and I couldn't sleep. And it's a long flight. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited and nervous at the same time. But when I landed, my whole world changed. My whole world changed. So all these stereotypes you have about the Middle East and the people and the culture totally went away. And
What were the stereotypes?
you know, dangerous, terrorism, not friendly, you know, they hate Americans. You know, all of that was there's nothing in common.
I think of it as kind of third world, less developed.
Right.
And so, is that true at all?
I mean, I think a lot of people still think that the Middle East is undeveloped. But we're coming from America, right? We're an incredibly developed country.
I mean, the subway's not so developed.
Well, the subway's a little different. It's funny. I definitely feel safer in Saudi Arabia than
I saw
do in the
Iran has like the best subways ever.
Look,
I don't know if it was like propaganda for me or if it's like
could
real.
be. I've never been to Iran. I don't know their subway systems, but I can tell you the metro in Saudi is actually pretty cool, pretty great. It's all above ground and it's totally safe. But all the stereotypes that I thought I had really melted away the minute I landed and I was greeted on the tarmac by a Saudi that says, you know, marhaba.
From the government, right?
It was the part, yeah. It was the government was receiving us.
That's so cool.
And some from the
You got
government.
the royal treatment.
We got. I mean, I didn't get any red carpet, but I got what they were giving me. And the guy says, "Marhaba, Ari, welcome, Ari. We're so happy you're here. Give me a big hug." And
He asked for a hug.
he didn't ask. He just gave me a hug.
Oh, he gave you a hug.
He
Okay,
just
fine.
gave me a hug. His name was Abdulaziz, and he was honestly the sweetest, the nicest guy. Worked for the government, received me, drove me around, and it was really just an incredible opportunity. And I still feel like I'm on that one-way ticket. Like I feel like I haven't come home. I'm there all the time.
What's the intention? Why was he so loving? Why did he care?
You know, look, I think that it's a culture, right? Why wouldn't they be loving? Why wouldn't they be welcoming?
Well, being in the US, it feels like the default here is if you have nothing to give me, then I have nothing to do with you. And until you prove that you have something to do with me, I'm not going to be very friendly. I'll be cordial, be nice to you.
Right.
I'm not giving you a hug.
Yeah, you know, that's definitely a Western mentality. But when you go into the Middle East and you realize that here in America, our kind of the way our culture drives our business and how we do business. Well, same thing in the Middle East. Their culture comes way before business deals. Their culture comes way before shaking hands. Their culture comes way before talking about money or transactions. Their culture is all about welcome to my home, welcome to my region. We're excited that you're here. I'm happy that you're here. Let me get to know you personally. Let me get to know you as a person before we even talk business. And I learned that the hard way. You know, I'm this American guy coming in from a big company, and all I wanted to do in the car when he picked me up was talk about business. And he looks at me in the car and he says, Ari, Habibi, my friend, Ari, my friend. He's like, shwaya, shwaya. Like, we'll get there. Don't rush it. Tell me where you are, where you're from. How is your flight? You must be hungry. Can we go get something to eat? Let's grab a coffee. Let me take care of you as a person first, and don't worry, we'll get to the business. Inshallah, they say, right? Please God, in good time, we'll get there. So I learned that like I wanted to come in, close the deal, get back home, you know, get it done, but things take much longer there because you need to invest in the person first before you can talk about business.
is it all just a play to make it feel like it's more personable when really the ultimate goal is also like, in the US, it's very transparent. We are here because we're doing business. So if you walk into a boardroom and you start talking about how is your flight, they're like, you're wasting our time. We're all on the clock right now.
Right.
So there, is it just a play where they want you to feel more welcoming?
They're manipulating
more
you.
welcome.
Or
They want to
something.
feel more trusted.
You know, I felt that in the beginning time, right? I've been there almost like 10 years, right? So we're talking almost a decade of doing business in the Middle East. And definitely in the beginning, I was frustrated, and I questioned, and I had the same question myself in the earlier days. But actually, I do believe that it's part of the culture. It's part of how things are done there. It makes things much longer, and it takes more time. But that's the culture. Like they've stayed true, and this is true about the Middle East, not just Saudi. The GCC has stayed true, and I'm so amazed by it.
What is the GCC?
The GCC is the Gulf
JCC?
countries. It's not. It's not like it's, you know what, it's like a JCC, right? You got your members, you got your membership in a JCC. The GCC stands for the Gulf Countries Council or Corporation, right? It's not corporate, it's a council. It's basically all of the countries in that Middle East. So Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, Oman, Yemen, all of those countries together make up the GCC. They're in the Gulf countries. And it's kind of branded as the GCC because they're all very different, but they're all very similar at the same time. But that part of the world has never changed how they do business based off of like modern day times and modern day culture. Right?
What do you mean? What hasn't changed?
They dress very traditionally, right? They wear their white thobe, they wear the smog, they wear.
Do you wear the thobe?
No, I don't. I do have. I was gifted many of them. I do not. I'd love to wear it. It's super comfortable and breezy. But like, but I would love
I'll
to
see
wear
you
it.
in a kilt next.
Yeah, in a kilt. Look, I'm all for local dress. They're not changing their culture just to do faster or better business. Their culture is rooted, and their business is rooted in their culture. When you walk into their room, they're serving you coffee and tea, and you're sitting in their Modulus, and you feel there's an energy of warmth. It totally disarms you.
It's not intimidating?
I don't find it intimidating. I actually love it. It does disarm you, right? If you're gonna go in there guns blazing, it's the wrong place to do it. You're never going to close the deal, make the sale, do good business if you're coming in guns blazing. But if you take the time to adapt to their culture, the sky's the limit.
Would you recommend it for us? I've never been to, aside from Israel, the Middle East, but
Right.
I always see Instagram reels about Dubai. I hear people talking about Dubai.
He loves
I'm
Dubai.
like, I'm 22. I could just pick up and move to Dubai right now.
Go do it.
Should we do podcast studios in Dubai? Should we dish-
100%. Well, first of all, do I think everyone should visit the Middle East? 100%. I think everyone should travel. I think business today is more global. Business today is about reaching larger audiences and attracting larger audiences. So I think sales today and business today is not your neighborhood and your zip code or your city. The business today is global. The reach is everywhere.
Even for 22-year-olds?
Even for 14-year-olds.
Should we stop working here?
Well, I mean, you want to follow my footsteps and go into the Middle East?
Yeah,
why not?
Do you think it would work?
I'd be more than that. I'm totally gung ho about it. Look, I put all my eggs in that basket. Like I don't really have that much business here in the U.S. My family's here. My life is here.
Do you speak Arabic?
I don't actually. I don't speak Arabic, but they all speak English. So I've tried. My Arabic has improved. On my father's side, they're Iraqis. So I have this Middle Eastern, it's in my DNA, it's in my blood. But I think everyone should go to the Middle East. It's not easy though, I'll tell you.
Why is it not easy?
Look, I think it's still developing. It's not like New York City. It's not like New York. It's not like America. There's a lot of great things, but a lot of difficult struggle. Like anything, any startup you do there and here, you're gonna and you're gonna see the same challenges. There, it's a little bit harder. Language, infrastructure, they're developing it.
So aside from the initial costs of flights, basically, and maybe rent there, how do you think it would actually go if we picked up and we're just like, right now we're in New York, but we could do this anywhere. Let's do it in Dubai. Next day we're off the plane, trying to set it up. Is it too slow for it to work for an entrepreneur that's young and doesn't have a 3-month runway?
Yeah,
like we would need something moving after a week.
Yeah, in a place like Dubai, things could move fast, but you would have to actually get licensed. You'd have to incorporate in a either onshore or offshore. In a place like Dubai, you'd have to actually get a rent.
Beyond our pay grades.
It does take money to make money in that region.
And how do you even market in Dubai? Like, I don't speak the language. I don't know Dubai's internet.
Dubai is 90+%, 90 maybe 98% expats. Everyone speaks English. Signs are in English. Marketing is in English. Business is in English. It's an incredibly English-friendly city. So, language would not be a problem in Dubai.
That's my main concern of there's going to be some sort of barrier or building trust with people.
Well, that definitely is going to be a barrier, right? You're going to have to learn and build trust with anyone, but that's true here in America too. But definitely, especially in the Middle East, right? Trust comes before anything in that region. And I always say, whenever I talk to people about the region, the biggest form of currency is not gold or US dollar. It's FaceTime. The more FaceTime you have in the region, the more you show up, the more you fly there, the more you meet people in their homes, the more you have coffee and tea with them in their Modulus. The more you do that.
What is a Modulus?
A Modulus is basically a living room.
Oh, I thought like a mosque or something.
So a Modulus is a living room. Right? If I would come over to your house, we'd sit in your living room, right?
Is it on the floor?
So some of them are on the floor.
Whoa.
Some of them are on couches. The old traditional way of doing it is on the floor. I've sat on the floor in the middle of the desert with Saudis. We've been hunting. We were on sand dunes. I've done pretty much all of it.
Do you ever pinch yourself and be like, what the hell?
What
is going on?
Yeah, sure. Many times, a boy from New York having the experiences that I have had building businesses in the Middle East is pretty surreal. So I definitely pinched myself quite a few times.
What works in the Middle East? What kind of businesses do you see are the best? What's being built there right now?
Look, there's so much opportunity there across many different sectors: healthcare, real estate. Technology, data centers, hospitality is huge there. Huge. Education is huge there. The education market is really untapped there. Right now, I have a company called Danforth Holdings, and Danforth is actually based. It's a Saudi-based entity. We do work in Bahrain, in UAE, in Qatar, in Saudi. And we're focusing on 5 sectors that we really think are the main pillars and the main players. And before I share what those 5 sectors are, you guys should also think about looking into what Vision 2030 is.
Is that the line?
So the line is part of Vision 2030.
Oh, okay.
So
it's about no oil, no more oil money.
That's the high level, right?
Okay.
It's that how do we, right now, Saudi Arabia is known for, or the GCC, right? All those countries in the Gulf are known for having lots of oil, right? And they're just making money. They're printing money because they're selling oil. Mm-hmm. And they're saying is, you know what? Oil is not forever. It could be, maybe, but they're saying that oil is not forever. So how do we, if we had no oil tomorrow, how would our country function? What would we sell? What would we export? What would we need to buy to keep our people fed and happy and safe and secure? And they're looking at it and they're like, well, we actually don't have that much to export and sell. We would need to have a tremendous amount brought in for us. It would take us back to the time where we didn't have any oil. And that's
so
not
glass, they have tons of sand.
Oh, they have.
I know
they got
Minecraft.
sand.
You put the sand in the smelter. You get glass.
You know what? And maybe that works for them. But they're like, we're not going backwards. We're not going to go back. So let's move forward. So their Vision 2030, and all of these countries in the Middle East have their own version of what their vision is. So by the year 2030, where are we going to be as a country? What are we going to have for ourselves? What are we going to develop and build that by the year 2030, we're going to be self-sufficient, and we're not going to be as dependent on oil as we are today.
That's ambitious. That's soon.
It's incredible. So it was launched in 2018, and I remember being in the kingdom when they launched that. And so from 2018 all the way to 2030, they have their set of goals that they want to reach, and they break it down into different pillars. So when you ask me like what's going on there,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have everything from the sectors I said: hospitality, real estate, housing.
Is hospitality hotels?
Hotels.
Like travel and
Travel and hospitality. So they
is
need
that
hotels.
Dubai? Is that part of why Dubai exists?
Well, Dubai is another. Dubai is a city within the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. So Dubai is a city in a country that's called the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. So Dubai as a city was way more advanced than a place like Saudi Arabia. They have tons of infrastructure. They have tons of tourists. They have tons of activity there. Saudi had nothing, really. It had the two holy sites. It had Mecca and Medina. People came to Mecca to pray. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of millions of people come to Saudi just for religious tourism. But guys like us are not going to Saudi, right? I'd rather go to Turks and Caicos. I'd rather go to London. I'd rather go to Japan. Like, I'd rather go other places. I don't need to go for religious tourism. So these Saudi had nothing. Dubai had like all these cool skyscrapers and all this cool shit. Like, it was amazing.
They have crazy stuff.
They have crazy stuff. It's like a bigger version of Vegas in my mind.
And everything's like, this is Mercedes this is another big company that. It's like a luxury city.
You know, I used to be like, oh my god,
the cops of Lambos, like that's crazy.
Yeah. Lamborghini. I mean, by the way, it's very true. Like their police force has like Lamborghinis, and you have like all these supercars driving around. And I used to think that it was so awesome and so cool, but you know, people there, like, look, they work hard. They work hard for their money. They're hustling. They're building, and they're buying. They want to drive a Lambo because they want to drive a Lambo, and no one gives a shit about it. Like, no one is judging them for it. You drive a Lambo in New York City, people are looking at you. Mm-hmm. What does he do? What does he want? Like, there's a lot of evil eye.
What's he trying to do?
You know, well, right. What's he trying to do? In Dubai, there's a fair share of that, but totally different cities.
It seems like there's this whole world that, and we're just talking about Dubai and Saudi Arabia right now, but there are all these other markets also.
Sure.
So even for you were choosing between this venture, this job, that job. And we're choosing between, and maybe at that time, it wasn't as much of a global market. But now we can really just pick up and go anywhere. Choose any venture, choose any job in any city, in any country in the world. How are we supposed to choose which one to go after? Right now, we're in a podcast studio. We can keep going with it. But how do we know it's the right one?
Go visit them. Go visit them. You're not going to know off of spreadsheets. You're not going to know off of, Googling or ChatGPT. You're going to know which place in the world you want to do business in by visiting that place, by talking to people.
Can you do that when you're young?
Yeah, why not?
Or do we have to just do this until it works really well and then
you get invited?
No, don't wait. If you want to really explore global expansion, you want to really explore doing business in other countries, don't wait for an invitation. Don't wait for the perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time. If you can afford a plane ticket and you can go there for a few days, go check it out.
Just go there. Like, we're not going to any of these, what are they called? The living rooms?
Modulus.
We're not meeting any Saudi princes and royalty.
You don't need to meet Saudi princes to be successful in the Middle East. You need to have good intention. You need to be a mensch. You need to show them what good what good business is about. You need to be prepared. You need to come with your plan. But I'm telling you to just go and see. Go walk in the streets. Go meet people. Go spend a few days there. You don't need to have high-level business meetings to just start exploring. I had some guy reach out to me, and he's a young guy, okay? And he said to me, he's like, I want to build a business in Saudi Arabia. I said, well, why do you want to build in Saudi Arabia? He's like, I just see what they're doing with the line and the giga projects and all this stuff. And he's like, I want to help people there. I have a great idea. And I'm happy to move there with my wife and my kid. And I said, oh, really? Okay. And I said, have you ever been there? No, I've never been there. Okay. Do you know anyone from there? He's like, no, I don't know anyone from there. I see awesome stuff. I said, okay, great. I said, I'm going to give you a challenge. I said, go back once a month and just sit in a lobby of a hotel. And I'll give you the 5 hotels you're going to sit in the lobby in, okay? And I'm going to tell you every month, there's always something happening. Every month you're going to find one of these events, conferences or whatever, and you're just going to go and sit and wait and meet people. And just, you're not selling anything. Do this for 1 year and then tell me what you think. And at the end of this summer, this guy is going to finish exactly 1 year. He has gone back to Saudi every single month and just sat in lobbies, sat in offices, went to conferences, just listened, just explored. And I said, and I'm going to say to them, if you can do that and do a full year cycle and listen and learn in a place, it could be in Italy, it could be in Greece, it could be in Saudi, it could be anywhere, you'll answer your question. How do you know if that's the right place? Go spend time there. Go immerse yourself in it.
Right now, time is the one, and maybe it's sort of paradoxical, but we don't have time right now. We need traction.
You have all the time. You have all the time. First of all, your 20s are, you have all the time to explore and find the recipe that works and what doesn't work. Your 20s are all about trying different ingredients and seeing what happens. You're not expecting things to happen by 25 years old, and you got to hit it big by 25, and is the wrong. I don't know who put that in.
Why not?
Anyone?
If you're doing all the right things, then it should be able to happen.
Fine. If you're great, if you found a recipe that works, like halavai, amazing.
So if Dubai
awesome.
was the secret recipe, and we went to Dubai and started a business there, then it should be the secret.
If the ingredients work out, great, do it. But my point is, in your 20s, don't poison your mindset where it has to work out here. Has to work out in my 20s. You have nothing but time.
So everyone says that, but it seems like all those people saying it that are successful now, their approach in their 20s was it needs to work right now.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, don't do what I did and you'll end up where I am right now.
No.
But it's kind of like, but then we're not doing what you did. You did the exact opposite.
No, I figured out I wasn't super successful in my 20s.
But were you trying to be?
Yeah, but you can try to be successful and go and be successful. But again, I tried all these different recipes, all these different businesses, all these different ideas, all these different people I met with, all these different programs and services. In my 20s, I spent, I think, thousands of dollars on like bullshit marketing courses online, like all these these courses teach you how to do underwriting and things that I really should have learned in college, but I was just too busy doing other things. I tried so many other things. I tried my ingredients. I think now, in my 30s, I think now is when I'm like starting to actually see an uplift. But I feel like your 20s is go find your recipe. Go try different things.
So because that seems like a very loose strategy, but how do we make it more practical for us? What does looking for the recipe look like?
Well,
where should we be? What should we be doing?
What do you guys like to do? Seems like podcasting is a passion of yours, and you're good at it.
Thank you. Learning is a lot of fun. One, meeting and connecting with people is a lot of fun also.
Yeah.
I think it gives me knowledge in a way that I couldn't get in any other way, because such intentional conversations where it's beneficial for everyone to have a productive conversation is really helpful and just forces me to learn a lot. But ultimately, I want to build something huge.
I think it's just building something bigger than yourself, helping people. I don't know, building something. For me, it's like legacy that kind of motivates me.
Your legacy is not. It's
a crazy thing to say. I want legacy. Like I'm a
that's awesome.
22-year-old,
I want legacy too. I'm totally with you. I want a legacy. I want to be known for. I mean, there are different types of legacies, right? Like my legacy, I think, is Middle East work, whatever that means. I want legacy too. But legacy doesn't come now. My legacy is in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Also, your legacy happens after we die. So like I have time. You have time. What my advice to you now is figure out if podcasting business is it, and you want to try it and you want to put all your eggs in it, amazing. Go try different recipes, different models, different partnerships, different relationships, different ways of doing it. Go try multiple ways.
So what would those multiple ways look like? Obviously you don't work in podcasting, so you don't have every detail of it. But how would you approach from the perspective of starting a business? What are the different ways we could take it?
Right now we only have one studio. Should we get multiple? Should we, I don't know, partner with different co-working spaces?
Yeah, it's hard. Well, great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Great idea. Partner, looking at other people you can work with is a great way to learn about your product and service, what's sellable and what's not, what people like to hear and what they don't like to hear, what's working and what's not working. It's a great way to do it.
Is Wework still in Dubai?
Wework does have 2 locations in the UAE, one in Dubai and one in Abu Dhabi, and they're great. They're great locations. Co-working there didn't take off as big as it did in America, but it's slowly getting there. Last
thing, you went the working for someone else route. Would you recommend that for us? Is that the way you get the knowledge? Instead of just doing it yourself, work for someone who has this massive leverage, meet cool people, learn things.
Look, I have a tremendous appreciation to the people that I worked for in my journey. Looking back at it, I needed to learn skills because I didn't learn them early on. I didn't learn them in school. I didn't apply myself the way I maybe should have. So I needed to work for someone else, even though I hated it and I never wanted to. And I bumped heads with every single person I've worked for. Like even at Wework, I think I was incredibly, I made my voice heard. Which again, I think is a great trait for me. But there are some people that can be entrepreneurs out of the gate from the beginning, and there are some people that need to learn skills from working with other people. There's nothing wrong with that. Each person is going to be different. Each situation is going to be different. If there are things that you need to learn, and working for someone else will give you that knowledge, go work for someone else for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Go work until you feel like you learn that skill and you can do something on your own. I think that's totally fine. I personally can't see myself now at my stage like working for anyone else. Like I have one life, I have a legacy I want to build. I want to create a life, not just make a living. If that's for me at this point, like that's who I am. But for someone just starting out, if there are skills you don't have yet, go learn them. And you can learn them through courses. You can learn them through working for other people or with other people. Totally fine to do.
If there's one piece of advice out of everything that you would give to people our age looking to build some sort of business, what would it be?
You know, I don't think there's actually just one piece of advice. I think there's multiple things that people in today's world need to do in order to have a good, successful business, right? It's a recipe it's a toolbox, right? You need to have all these different types of tools in your toolbox. But I would say, you know, I always like to say this, like, the worst skill you can have is ghosting people. Be responsive, get back to people. And if it's a no, or if you're waiting for a no, or you're waiting for a yes, like, own it. The worst thing I think people can do now is just disappear because they don't want to have hard conversations. That's number one. Number two is don't be afraid of doing really silly, simple tasks. Nothing is above your pay grade. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, you got to do everything and anything. Clean toilets to strategy work. There's nothing wrong with doing any of that, but nothing is above your pay grade. You get that mindset out. And I think if you're in your 20s, everyone wants to do the big stuff, the big strategies, the vision. You know, everyone wants to be a manager. Not many people want to be an executor. So if people can actually execute on small tasks, you're miles ahead of your competition.
You're like Mr. Miyagi with making him wash the car and paint the fence.
Yeah, look, I love that. I love that movie. You know, Karate Kid taught some great lessons. Yeah, I mean, like there's value in structure, and there's value in learning like basic skills. There's value in it.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you, Ari.
We might be moving to Dubai soon.
Yeah, let's do it.
See if it happens.
You're welcome to my Modulus.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome to my living room. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.